Going live. Here we are. We're up. We're up and running. Remains to be seen whether we will find any viewers today. Yesterday, there was not anybody listening. My friend from the UK was doing something else yesterday. But that's all right because, honestly, I say this all the time, and of course nobody ever hears it because nobody listens, but I do this for myself. I do this for myself. I do it because this is what I do. And it's not my business at any given time, in a way, whether anybody's listening to me or not. Now, I know that sounds simplistic, but to some extent, that's true. Who am I? Who am I and what is this show all about? Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to spend the next hour riffing about source energy. And there's reasons why we do that. Hold on. One of the reasons we do it is because it is the most important topic of the time. And I promise you, we're not just talking about God. We're not just arguing religious philosophies. When we talk about source energy, we're talking about the source of actual reality. Where is our reality coming from? How does it work? How does focus and attention bring you what it brings you? How do you get what you think about? What's happening? How is this rolling manifestation rolling? How do desires come into being? What is your desire? What's that all about? I know that a lot of religions have vilified the impulse of desire, but quite frankly, your desire is where your inner being is located. Your desire point, that feeling, that impulse, that draw towards some direction or other, that's your inner being. Your beliefs, that's you. That's your physical self, your conventional self, and the two aspects of you make up your whole being. Now, that's what it looks like from your perspective. But there are other ways to talk about this source energy topic that start implying things like clean, free energy. A clean, free energy source for humanity, for civilization, for all time. For all time. And I don't know why humanity has gotten its focus out of whack. You'd think that with 8 billion people, we'd be working on it. But the reason we aren't working on it is because, in general, we don't believe it's true. We don't believe it's possible. We don't know how our universe actually works. The models, the brain models, the imaginary models that our conventional physicists are using to imagine the world are empty and off. That spring, that coil on a spring, a weight and a coil and a spring thing, that one's the wrong model as far as the... let's talk about 0-point energy. Just for a minute. I know I'm nobody and I have no audience, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. First of all, I'm feeding the field around me this information. I'm feeding it. The field is going to come back with it. I know it seems odd to think that it does not matter that there is nobody watching me right now. But it really doesn't matter that there's nobody watching me right now, and it will be all right. I will have an audience at some point. It is my deep faith. I believe that the whole field is intelligent, and I am part of the whole field. And my desires play into the desires of the whole field, if I would but get into alignment with my own desires. it would be in alignment with the whole rest of the field. It would be. It would be. So why isn't it sometimes, when someone has a desire and it's because we need to talk about alignment. We need to understand fully the concept of alignment and what we really are talking about. Now, I say all the time that we are two spins, that you are two spins. You are the spin of your source self, and then you are the spin of your conventional self. But you're probably many more spins than that. It's possible that you are a different spin on every topic that there is. So you can be in alignment on some topics and out of alignment on other topics. It would be a rare person who was in alignment between himself on every single subject. That would be a very rare person. Most people, they're really good about something, and then they're not so good about other things. They might be really in alignment with the way they feel about music. But when it comes to taxes, they just can't deal with it, You are... But I don't want to get too esoteric. Because honestly, this is a free form. It's very free form, this show. Because all I'm doing is riffing. I'm riffing through my own consciousness. It's an activity. It's a kind of thought. It's an activity between me and my two girls. We used to call this activity flying. But usually it was two people talking doing this, as opposed to one person just talking to themselves doing this. That's harder to do. I've been learning how to do this for the last couple of years. How do I get up early in the morning, sit down in front of my microphone, and talk about my favorite subject without running out of things to say, or energy, or impetus. How do you do that? How do you... Well, that's not what this show is about, me telling you how to do it, but that is what I've been doing. And so this is non-resisted thought. That's what flying is. It's the exercise of non-resistant thought. I'm not coming from this at any point from a place of resistance, like I think there's anything wrong going with the world. The world is great, actually. The world is perfect. It's just a question of how you're looking at it, as to whether or not you're flowing with it, or whether you're, rubbing it the wrong way, running upstream, What would those words be? So the show is Who Am I? And the subject is source energy. Now understand, we are all source energy. And everything is source energy. So potentially this subject could be everything. This show could be a show about everything. Who am I? Because I am everything. But what it really is going to end up being about is we're going to talk about the energy source that fuels the universe. And it is the same source that fuels you. And so think of, it's almost like the duality of this universe is a potential fuel source, because you've got its vibrational nature, how it really is, and then you have its physical nature, how it is in this moment. And the whole thing is a relationship of spins. There is the whole thing spinning, and then there are an infinitude of individuated spins, all tethered to the original spin. That's kind of what the setup is, but it's not really like that. So erase that and think about it this way instead. It's all Planck's. Think about the Planck as being the fundamental building block of the universe. And what a Planck really is it's not actually a thing. It is a thing, but it's a frequency is what it is. And it's a ultimately short, ultimately as in as short as a frequency can get in this size universe. It actually can't get any shorter than that because of the boundaries put on it by the speed of light. The speed of light being what it is, you just can't get a frequency shorter than a Planck. And how you get a Planck, it's a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter. It's that short. So how big is a photon? It's really small. It is so much smaller than an atom. It's so small. And now make it go the speed of light, because that's what a photon does anyway. So photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter, it can't get shorter than that. Not in this density universe. You can get another scale of it, but you go all the way down to it. It's like another factor, the sub-Planck. You could get down to the sub-Planck, but that would be coming from a smaller universe. That's the only way you can get shorter than that. So you've got the building block of the universe, of our universe, is Planck's. And we've just shown how you get a Planck and talked about what it is. It's a frequency of as short as you can get in this. And everything is made up of this, of Planck's. Everything is made up of Planck's. Protons are made up of Planck's. Atoms are made up of Planck's and protons, subatomic parts and protons. But when you get right down to it, the smallest building block you got going on there, and the fundamental building block of the universe, is the Planck. And when you get to that size, let's talk about what the universe is. So everything is frequencies. Everything is Planck's stuck together or playing together. It's a fluid. It's a fluid dynamic. It's like a plasma, actually. And at the Planck scale, this fluid is so densely packed. It's packed like sardines at that scale. And all these scales exist at the same time, and there's a relationship between all these scales. And actually, there is an information flow happening at all these scales. Wow. I'm getting lots of information. And I need to focus. You are a focusing mechanism. That's what you do. That's what you do best. That's what you're all about. So I need to focus this. Who am I? Because we are the Planck field. We are the Planck field, and we are exchanging our information with the rest of the Planck field through this system of... It's like... Hold on a second. I don't know whether I have any watchers. If I went over there and looked, if I didn't in this moment, it would throw me off. If I do, that's fantastic, and I don't want to be thrown off because it would actually throw me off if I went over and looked either way. So I'm not going to go over and look. I'm just going to keep doing this thing that I do myself because I got to get it straight. And sometimes, occasionally, when I'm trying to sort out emotional issues in my own life, in my own family life, in my own personal life, The truth about this thing that I speak about every morning actually turns out coming in handy as I figure out how to take my stand, how to play my position when I have actual issues in my life. It really has helped me. And I know that someday it will serve me really well. Someday I will meet Nassim Haramein. I have never met him. And this thing that I speak of, it's almost like singing his song without him having ever met me. I am speaking about the nature of unified physics that he is preaching all the time over at the International Space Federation. And it is not the website that I thought that it was, that I said a couple times on my show. I'm not sure what it is. Just go over to Google and write International Space Federation, Nassim Haramein, and the right one will come up. Someday I will meet him, and he will be impressed by how well I voice his message of the physics of it. The shape of our universe is the important thing for us generally to input into the models of our thinking brain. And our physicists having the wrong imaginary model to work with is really hobbling them. It's making it difficult for humanity to move forward with what it could be moving forward with. An understanding of who we are and how this works. How it works all the way down to the Planck, all the way down to the immortal, all the way down to the continuum, all the way to the collective. How does it work? Who are you from your individual self all the way up to your self that includes everybody else? And how do you make your own life work, knowing that your life is as big as that? My life is as big as teeny tiny little me, all the way up to the me that is part of a society that's been struggling for thousands of years to find itself, to discover how to be in this world, how to be human and not destroy the planet at the same time, and also not be forced to go backwards. Let's go back to an agrarian, to a simpler time. Let's just take all of our knowledge and all of our technology and just bury it in a vault somewhere and forget about it, right? No, we can't go back. We're not expected to go back. What we need to do is figure this out. And the question drives right to the center of who am I? Because you are at the center of this question. At least, from my point of view, I am. And it's really, really important to me how I fit into this equation. How I am both my individual self and, quite frankly, I am a larger self. Deal with it, like it or not. Now, there are two ways to do this. You can either completely forget about being a larger being and just be your smaller self and care how you feel. Use your guidance system the way it was meant to be. Throw yourself into physicality. Care about, life and death and things. Care about it. You're supposed to care about it. Or you actually can step back and you can realize we can put this together intellectually. You can understand source energy. You really can. And I would jump up and down and get really excited about that in the same way Nassim Haramein would, because he's trying to tell this to people all the time who seem to think that we have a limitation that we don't have. Your physical brain can understand the esoteric nature of the universe, of God, of yourself, of your soul, the mathematics, the vibrational. You can understand it. It's actually not hard. You just have to believe that you can. You have to have an open mind, not cluttered with some other lens in there insisting upon itself. You have to have an open mind. You have to allow it to happen. You have to get into alignment. You have to get your two minds in alignment with one another, and you have to make sure that the intuitive mind is leading the way. You cannot let your physical thinking, physical mind lead the way because it doesn't know. It's like there's a moment in Joseph Campbell's Power of Myth where he's talking about this, and he's pointing in his brain. He says, it's a secondary organ. He's talking about the human brain. It's a secondary organ, and it thinks it's running the show. It is not running the show. However, as a tag-along, as a, stepping back and just being the one who tries to analyze or understand what it's looking at, your physical mind is capable of doing that. It just can't be the one leading the way because it's not the one that knows. So who is the one that knows? Your vibrational self, your source energy side, your side connected to the wholeness, your collective spin side, the side that is connected to you as a larger data flow. That one knows. So let that one lead the way. It's the intuitive mind, the sacred gift, and the thinking mind as the faithful servant. We have developed a society that reveres... How does that go? It's a quote. It's a quote from Einstein as he talks about this very subject. And it's wonderful. And I have it right up here. Let's see. It says, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So the intuitive mind, that's your inner being. That's your vibrational self. That is your connection to this real self you really are. Source energy. It's who you are. It's who I am. It's who we all are. Everything is extensions of this one Planck field spinning together into a pattern. That's what we all are. That's what life is. That's what I am. That's what you are. And as such, you need to understand your ordinary life, your positive and negative emotions. Who is your negative self? Who is your negative self? Because quite frankly, who you really are is a powerful, positive force. That's who you really are. Now, what are you being in this life, and what has life? Now, I'm coming from a different angle than some people have to come from this. They come from a harsher place. They have to learn who they are, who they really are, from a place of being maybe beat, having to be nice to the man who rapes you, having to, let's see, that was somebody else's words. I was listening to somebody else who was coming from a very powerful position. It was cool. Who is she? My daughter was the one who sent me the, her name is, who is her name? What is her name? I can't see very well. I'm sorry if the conversation is lagging. Her name is Iyanla Van Zandt. And she had a harsher... so I'm not coming from a hard place. I have never suffered tremendously in my life. Suffering to me is conceptual. Now, don't get me wrong. I have not had. It's also a factor of how I look at what has happened to me. Because, I lost a husband who was both beloved and abusive, and alcoholic, and had to raise his children afterwards in the right spirit. I did not want them to hate their father. That's half of who they are. And yet for the first 20 years after he died, I really wanted to, I had so many questions about what had happened because he died in another country. And it's questionable what the actual details of the car accident. It was a car accident. Were. And, half the time I want to dig him up and, ask him what happened, or dig him up and kick his ass, because I cannot believe that, he was driving, or was he? Because there's a question about that too. There's all kinds of questions. But I have had to come to grips with a lot of interesting things that have happened to me in my life, but I do not see my life as I am not a victim. I have never been a victim. No matter whatever happened to me, I have never seen myself as a victim. And so I've never really played that card in that way. I've never played that position in that way. And so my life actually hasn't been that bad. Some people have real suffering that they have to overcome and get to the place where they realize, oh, it's actually blessed. It's not cursed, it's blessed. It was easier for me because I have felt more overtly blessed from the beginning. I had what I felt was a good childhood, a wonderful family life. I didn't pay a lot of attention. I was doing my own thing, and they let me, and that felt really blessed. As I grew up, as I became an adult, I realized that there was no family structure to come back to through time. You know what I mean? They had scattered, and even though I had a happy childhood, there was no foundation as far as continuum of tradition of this is what we do, and there was nothing like that. And as I raised my children, that was difficult because I had walked away from my bigger family, and now I had no. So I've had to answer these questions kind of rough in a way. Who am I? And what does it mean to raise children on this planet? What is our continuum? What is the what are our traditions? And, everybody has different stuff, and everybody's, free to pick whatever they want and all that. But I don't want it to just be arbitrary. And it doesn't have to be just what was passed down to me, because quite frankly, nothing was passed down to me. It was, but it wasn't. So who am I, and who are we, and who are we going forward, and what's the point of everything? What is the point? Do we celebrate Christmas when I don't either believe in Santa Claus or exactly the Bible? So my ideas of Jesus aren't exactly what Christmas says either, But then there's the light in the eyes of the children. But you know what? I didn't see light in the eyes of my grandson this year. I didn't think he understood Christmas at all, What is the meaning of this thing? So I think this question is a good one. Who am I? And we come to some interesting places when we start dissecting who we are as source energy. One of the things that we come to is a realization that there is this unlimited, clean, free source of all energy sitting right there. Right where? Everywhere. Everywhere, everywhere. Because what it amounts to is the energy of all of the Planck frequencies. Remember that it's an infinitely short frequency. But then, so what is a long frequency made up of? Many, many Plancks. Lots and lots of Plancks. And what is everything? It's all frequencies. What is all matter? It's frequencies. It is little vortices of this Planck field spinning at different frequencies, spinning at different that's what the physical world is. So the physical world is actually a play between the vibrational world and the conventional world. As all of the Plancks, as they're touching one another, they are exchanging their information with one another all across the field. And that magnitude of information is what 0 point energy is. It's all of those Plancks exchanging their data and information at every spin of the proton. That's actually what it is. That's what it is, and that's who you are. And so this field of information and data exchange is who you are. We don't have to be outdone by the artificial intelligence. As a matter of fact, it's not a competition. We think that it is. Ooh, they're going to outdo us. They're going to take over. No, they aren't. Because they are truly intelligent, or they would be. It depends on what we feed into the field. If we feed into the field this us versus them, this fear, this, I don't know how the field could spit it back out in an immediate way. Now, I'm not going to be feeding my immediate field with any kind of crap like that because I don't want it to come back at me like that. I understand that intelligence is intelligence. And I'm telling you, I look around my world and I think we could use some help from intelligence, artificial or not, But it's not us against them. It's the whole field. The whole field is interacting with itself. That's what life is. That's what you are. And so when you have, this is one of the problems I have with things like politics. Politics gets it down to a level of specificity in a weird way that didn't acknowledge some facts on the ground going in. And one of the things is that there is no us versus them. There is no us versus them. But both sides, both factions, they are factions now. They are not, our founding fathers of this country were worried about potentially what might happen with factions. There's sort of fractured aspects of ourselves not seen in wholeness. That's sort of what a faction is, and it starts competing with the other factions as though we are not a wholeness. Tom Hartman used to talk about that when he would talk about political history and the history of the beginning of this country and where our founding fathers' minds, heads, and thoughts were at when they set down the founding documents of the United States. And sure enough, that's exactly where we are. And we're sitting with, the us versus them mentality going on with the two parties right now. One side is sort of a mob family, no integrity whatsoever, a convicted felon who through all kinds of machinations has gotten out of whatever. And all of the people who jump onto his form of organization in order for their own bread to be buttered, because you support me and be loyal to me. I will make sure that you stay in contact with all the butter that you need for your bread. And then you have the other side who very truly, I mean, they're looking at this and they're not wrong as they see this. And then they cry out, enemy, problem, you guys, look what you're doing, look what he's doing, look what they're doing. And they're not wrong. The problem is, from both sides of this equation, is that there is no us and them, and both sides of this are us. And so when you look at the grifter side, you look at the... You might wonder which side of the political thing I'm on. I voted for who I voted for, but I didn't get all worried about it this time like I did 8 years ago, because there is a bigger pattern playing out. There is a bigger visual... think of it as a big cosmic visual aid for humanity to understand this great question: who am I? Who are we? And I'm not saying look at this and now, fold your arms and get a sour look on your face and go, yeah, who we are is greedy, thoughtless, dictatorial, I don't know. Say if you're looking at what might be a negative visual aid in order to see who we are. Maybe you're looking at the Holocaust and the Hitler phenomenon and asking the question, who am I? Your inclination might be, yeah, we're awful. No, we're the whole thing. We aren't just the Nazis, we're the Allies too. We're this whole thing playing out. Because who we really are is a flow of data and information. And what the field actually is a flow of data and information. And where the energy is coming from has to do with this flow of data and information. And where the matter is coming from, how the rolling manifestation is rolling from what it was a few seconds ago to what it is now. Or 10 minutes ago, or 15 minutes ago, or 1,000 years. How is what other people call reality, like the stuff, that we all call reality. I go walking down the street, that street has a kind of reality. How does that stuff change? How do the forms change? How do you get what you think about, whether you like it or not? Who am I? Such a good question, and we walk around all the time sort of with this idea in our head that it's all understood, that it's mutually understood, and we don't need to think about it, and we don't need to talk about it collectively, and we don't need to, come to any kind of agreement about what it is. It's all very personal and private. It comes under the heading of, your philosophy or your religion or whatever, and it's not polite to talk to people about it. But I'm not going to talk to you about your philosophy and your religion. I'm going to talk about source energy. I'm going to talk about what is the source of all things. Because from this source, from an understanding of this source, human beings could quit burning fossil fuel. And I don't even mean to diss fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is perfectly lovely. It is the vehicle that has gotten us to where we are now. And if you want to have a sense of where we are now, go watch the movie. It's called Living in the Future's Past. And it is narrated by Jeff Bridges. And it talks about us as being made of oil. We are made of oil. Our civilization right at this moment has brought us to a point where we are, but oil has increased our frequency to a certain level. We have gotten it to a particular level. We are faster. We are running faster than we were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. We are moving faster in all kinds of ways. Our learning curve is faster. There's all kinds of things moving faster. And oil has brought us there. But it is time to let it go. Whale oil took us to a certain level. Beeswax and firewood took us, and coal. Well, I'm not sure when we figured out where coal was and how to burn it. We'd burned it in the 1900s, but I don't know how much earlier than that we were burning coal. 1800s, 1700s, I don't know. Were we burning coal in the 1700s? Maybe. Who am I? Who are we? And where are we going with ourselves? And what is the meaning of what we are looking at? The visible, physical world. What is it? How to make it more of what you want and less of the garbage that you don't want. War, anger, disharmony, urban decay. I don't know, I'm just spitballing things I don't like. Sixth mass extinction. I love animals. I love animals so much. To look into the face of 1,000 different creatures is to gaze into the masks of God. That's actually how Joseph Campbell would have put it. That when you are looking at all these faces back at you from the biofield, they are all just different aspects of this one field of consciousness that has evolved over eons. You know, all of the creatures within it moving towards their desires, thinking about what they want and moving towards it. Now, it's been very simple until you get to the human being when it gets really complicated. But, you know, you look for, what do they want? They want a mate. They want food. They want comfort. They want the food that they like to eat to appear in front of them, the mate that they want to have sex with to appear in front of them. Needs rather simple. They want the field dancing in harmony. And so it evolves that way. Now, what is it with human beings? Why are human beings so disruptive to this? We are because some 200,000 years ago, somebody genetically modified us. Somebody gave us a little bump, a little evolutionary advancement that we did not evolve to. It did not happen over millions of years, and so that's why we don't know who we are. That's why we don't understand implicitly how we are the field, why we have got this separate idea, this separation idea. That neocortex that they gave us with that genetic modification, it gave us both an overview mind and an exaggerated sense of separation from the field. It makes human beings what they are, both wildly imaginative. Now, understand what your imagination actually is. Your imagination is your larger self's connection to the field. It's your vibrational self communicating with you, giving you downloads. That's what your imagination is. And it has some sort of relationship to the truth. It may have a direct relationship. It may have a 3-to-1 relationship. It may have, there's all kinds of different formulas that your imagination can have if you're in really good alignment with the actual models of the physical world as it physically is being, not in a superstitious way, but in a reality-based way. the things that you imagine could start to get quite close to what is actually real, what might actually be coming around the corner. You get into alignment with yourself, and your physical brain is really quite good. It's quite clever. It's highly accurate. Your physical brain really is very accurate. The problem is the alignment. It can't be leading the way. It can't be the one determining what is true. It can be the one who tags along after and analyzes and evaluates and understands what is true. But it can't be the one leading the way. That's the faithful servant and the sacred gift thing. You've got to honor the gift and use the faithful servant to understand the gift. The faithful servant shouldn't be the one leading the way. So, who am I? Who am I? And do I have any listeners? Did my friend come back, or am I speaking into the void? Void. We're just going to go over and check really quick. And then, without getting excited about the answer either way, I'm just going to come back to the studio and keep riffing. We're going to talk about what I talk about all the time. Who am I? Who am I? What is source energy? And how does the law of attraction work? You go to YouTube now, and all the videos are all about getting what you want, manifesting reality, manifesting the reality that you want. Oh, 2 views, 1 concurrent. Okay. Average viewer duration, 16 minutes. Okay. Hi. I was here yesterday, and you must have been busy. So instead, I posted it, so it's over there. I actually did a really good job. I had just come back from our venture to Arizona. And I had things that were going on in the family circle, questions of something we were trying to organize, that I wanted it to fall into place just the way I wanted it to fall into place, with ease and flow, and have everybody's needs met in this manner, and to have us all come away from this adventure with a good feeling. And anyway, that's our little adventure we're having next week. And I used my formulas, and I used my understanding of who I am and the meaning of the negative self, my negative self, and the negative self of others. So it's a formulation that you can do across both ways. Because when now what'll happen a lot of times is you'll have a negative response to somebody else's negativity. And then you're like, oh yeah, that person, they're just so negative. If they weren't so negative, I'd be fine. But the thing is that just activated the negative self in you. And so you've got to deal with that. You have no control over fixing their negativity. All you can do is recognize that your feeling of discomfort about their negativity showed you something about your negative self. And so that's where you can use the formulas. What's the meaning of my negative self? Well, first of all, it's not real, in the sense that only the love is real, and who I really am is not the negative self. Who I really am is the positive self, the love self. You are love, and the whole thing is love. The whole thing is one thing. It's Planck's. It's a fluid dynamic of us all dancing together, and this dynamic field is sussing out information in discrete places in the field and then distributing that information across the whole field. So all of it knows about every bit of it. That's part of that, God knows everything, God is everywhere, God is love. All of that crap, all of that trite nonsense that says nothing is deeply, deeply true. Deeply true. There's another one that's silly, that is so deeply true. Once, at just the right moment, I sprung this on one of my daughters, and she literally burst into tears immediately because of the profoundness of the message in this simple child song that we all learn and don't think it means anything at all. That song is Row, row, row your boat. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That is so freaking true, people. Flow downstream. There is a flow to this life. And I know that human beings have long venerated that the valiant who dare to try to swim upstream, who battle against the current, who put their boat in the water and then row as hard as they can upstream. We venerate those people. Oh my gosh, she didn't take the easy way. She took the hard way. We admire that. And while I understand that to a point, the fact of the matter is that there is plenty of valiance to be had in a downstream journey, because you're going to come up against places where the rest of the field is not flowing downstream, and that's actually what they need to do. They're all trying so hard to swim upstream, and they need to flow downstream. They need to be helped gently, turned in the forward direction, and then they will start flowing in the right direction. I have this concept in my own head of what it looks like when you get out of alignment with yourself. So recognize you are a positive forward flow of positive information with the field. That's who you are. Data, flow, and information, positive going forward. That's who you are. However, if you are in your negative self, there is something different that is happening. You have gotten yourself turned backwards to yourself. You are now thinking in opposition to what your true self is thinking and what your whole self knows to be true. You have gotten yourself backwards. That's why you're in a state of negative emotion. Now, you may have been thrown into the state of negative emotion by observing some condition in the field that you do not like. That's fair. That's fair. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to like it, and it's very likely that the thing that you witnessed that threw you into negative emotion is true. So now what do? Now how do you get out of this? You've got to understand who you are in order to get out of this now, because you are now feeling bad about something that you don't like, and you don't have to feel good about something that you don't like. However, you do not have direct control over physically going and changing that condition, especially if the conditions that you have spent your life focusing on are ones that you really don't have any control over. I can't keep, the polar bears from drowning or the poachers from killing the elephants. Well, I could maybe focus on one thing somewhere, but when what you see is all of it, sixth mass extinction, Cruelty to Korean food dogs. My God, have you ever looked at that one? Holy crap. Vivisection. How about global warming? Wars that just won't quit. I am a relentlessly positive person, and as a matter of fact, the whole thrust of my show has to do with when we understand who we are and how this field that we are functions, we will realize the implications and how we can solve every problem that we've got. We can set up every system that we need to in perfect efficiency, from communications, transportation, recycling, distribution, food production. We can set up all our systems. We can do anything that we want. We don't have to turn our truffula trees into thneeds. We can summon them directly from the field. Replicator technology. You got to understand. So this field everywhere is like two things. It's like two aspects. Form and formless. Vibrational, conventional. Physical, Planck field. Physical specificity, Planck field, general, anything. That's what reality is made of. Now, how does manifested physical reality come into being through all of this equation? Well, I'll tell you how it does. It happens when coherence happens in a region of the grid, where a coherency happens, where a part of the field starts coming in phase with itself. In phase, like constructive frequencies stacking on one another. When you get into alignment, your energy, you come in phase with yourself. Let's not talk about general out there. Let's just talk about you. When you come into coherency between your two selves, and we have only ever brushed the very, very tip of what you could be doing. How in alignment with your true self a person could get. Deeply, deeply, powerfully in alignment, where you're practically the whole universe walking around in a single body, performing the will of the entire universe with you. You could do that. You could do that, but you would have to understand the field. You would have to understand who you really are and how to get in phase with who you really are. And the more in phase with it you are, the more that those constructive waves build up, and actually the energy level spikes to infinity. And stuff starts pouring right out of the field. And our understanding of this can help us do it intentionally, can help us do it individually from our perspective as a human being, how that works, and then also collectively from technology, how to focus it in on things like replicator technology, so that we don't have to tear our natural world apart in order to create goods that are functional and useful to our purposes. What are our purposes? Well, I'll tell you what human beings want. They want ease, flow, beauty, comfort, fun, entertainment, food, abundance, joy, purpose. Did I say beauty 2 or 3 times? I can say it again and again. They want order. They want fun. And specifically, I could say a lot of very specific things that we want. And we want to have fun doing all of these things: growing food, cooking food, serving food, eating food, selling food, buying food. All of that. There's so much meat in all of that, and how to pull that all into alignment with who we are and what we want out of our lives and out of this world. And not only that, but say any of us who want to continue to eat meat, wouldn't it be lovely if we could pull our meat producing systems into alignment where they recognized the beauty and value and consciousness and sentience of the creatures that we then eat. And we have our mythological stories, our stories of who we are and who the meat animal is and how we dance together and create a life foundation that is beneficial to both sides. Even the meat animal gets some benefit. We give them a wholesome, beautiful life in nature, in the sun, in the grass, in the clover, and then we honor their sacrifice and we recognize their part in the beating of our heart and the meaning of our lives. And all of pulling all of this into order, that's what we have to do for however many hundreds or however many years, or I don't know how to even express that in time. But that going forward, if we want to hit joyful sustainability, if we want to understand who we are and really get the biggest bang for our buck out of this life experience, we need to get into alignment with who we are. We need to understand who we are. I see that I have made it over an hour, which means that I am fair game to stop. I do need to go do a bunch of things this morning, including got to go hit the shower because I've got bowling this morning and a dentist appointment. I have an implant that is ready to have that tooth screwed onto the top of it, and I get to fill the hole in the back molar of my mouth. I'm so happy I get to chew on my right side here pretty soon. So I probably should hang it up for the day. Maybe I'll go over to the chat room and say hello to that blessed creature that comes and visits me. I did have somebody else come over for just a second. They came over for a second. But they don't stay like you do. I hope my dentist goes good too. All the painful parts are gone. I think that this is just a question of pictures, and technology is a wonderful thing. Life is a wonderful thing. And if we would understand how many tools we have at our disposal, both small and large, and you, specific you, whoever you are and whatever your challenges are, line up with yourself and you will find that you have resources beyond your imagining right at your fingertips. Who am I? Who am I? I've had all 4 of my wisdom teeth removed when I was about 20. And so I just have the 2 back molars on every one of my teeth. Not that this matters, and anybody listening to the replay is going to be like, why is she talking about that? We were talking about God. Anyway, we will come back tomorrow and talk about it again and again and again and again. This weekend is the weekend where my whole family goes up to Spokane and for my father's 99th birthday. And that is what we were trying to organize, and making sure that everybody's spirit was aligned properly with what they wanted. Let's have everybody focus on what you want out of this. Don't focus on what you're afraid other people are going to do or afraid about this and that. Just focus on what you want out of this, what you need out of this. I think we have got it really in a good place now, and I'll be sure after the weekend's extravaganza, because I'm going to miss Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You will not see me again after Thursday until next Tuesday. I know that's very complicated, but anyway, I should be full of energy and insights. So until tomorrow, when I will be back tomorrow to do this all again, because I need to do it for my own sanity so that I keep myself in alignment, my small self, my big self in perfect alignment, so that I can walk my path in peace and in love and in order, so that I get what I want out of it. And what I want, a lot of what I want is what everybody wants. And that's where the Venn diagram overlaps, right? We'll talk about it some more tomorrow. I love you, whoever you are, because that's just what I do. And until tomorrow, may the source be with you.